Thank you so much again. This is the second session in the series of 6 seminars on teachers as catalysts, and we're going to talk today about the power of positive role models, inspiring students to embrace strong values. And it will make a lot of sense if you connect it with the principles I shared with you the other day. Those of you who were with us last Monday, I talked about my beliefs in education. And one of them is the fact that we teachers are agents of character formation. All of us, whatever subject we're handling, we are in charge of molding minds, forming character, raising these young people entrusted to our care to be smart and good. Not just smart, but also good. In fact, I like very much that expression. Teachers, we are not given subjects to teach. We are entrusted with children to take care of, to form, to mold the minds of. That's a big difference. We are not just here to cover the curriculum. We are here in order to help young people become good, not only smart. They will become smart because you teach them well science, English, math, English, religion, social studies, whatever subject we're handling. But we are not just after that, we are also after making sure that they grow up to be good. So, as I said, this is being recorded. Okay, here's a quotation from James Baldwin. He said, "Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them." And that's how it is. Young people, especially if your students are in preschool, elementary, they are very receptive. They tend to imitate whatever they see among the adults, among the elders. And for them, adults, elders are people in the house, and then their second home, the school. We cannot avoid it. No matter how much we try to avoid, um, we cannot avoid it. Young people tend to imitate us. Minsan nga kinokopya pa ng mga bata, pati yung wrong grammar ng teacher. They tend to imitate everything. Even sometimes the way we talk and the way we walk, they tend to imitate. That's just the reality of life. That's just how it is. And so, this being the truth, this being the reality, we have to make sure they imitate the right things, not the wrong things, not the shouting, screaming, yelling, not the unkind words na minsan nabibitiwan ng mga teachers pagka galit na sila sa klase, punding-pundi na sila sa ilang estudyante, sa mga bata, and then they tend to utter even foul language, bad words, showing their irritation, their anger, their upset, that they are upset. Well, in that sense, they are also showing an example of lack of self-control, lack of temperance. I mean, being able to control our temper is part of the good example that we show our students. That's why a good teacher will never resort to shouting, screaming, yelling, or saying things that would hurt or harm, hurtful or harmful. We always utter words that are helpful but never hurtful. And that requires a mindset. And I'm not just talking of teachers in basic education. I also include teachers in college. If we, like me, I happen to be a teacher in the University of Asia in the Pacific, but that doesn't give me any permit. Just because my students are older does not give me the permission to be a terror teacher, uncaring, unkind, in action, in words, and in the way I carry myself. Not an excuse for me. So, children are great imitators. We might as well give them something great to imitate. And that is what this session is all about today. We have to provide something that is sorely lacking in the environment that the young kids today are growing up in. Okay, let's not generalize. We know many good parents sacrificing so much for their children, showing great example. But we also notice a certain change in, I don't know, parenting style. um, I've taught in so many schools, and in all the schools I've taught in Iloilo, in Alabang, in Quezon City, in Pasig, um, in my 30 years inside the classroom, I've taught in different schools. But in every school, I noticed a certain type of parents. May mga magulang na halimbawa, pag ang estudyante bumagsak, aba, lulusob yung nanay sa eskwelahan, hahanapin ka, tapos sasabihin sa'yo, Mr. Rentoy, please explain why my son failed. Para bang, ay, teka muna, kasalanan ko ba yan? Eh, hindi nag-aaral ang anak mo siguro. eh, nag-video game siguro. Did you supervise if he is doing his assignment at home? Hindi, there are some parents who are like that. That's why if you arrived 15 minutes before we started, I showed that video about dear parents. Trevor Muir talking to parents who are what we call helicopter parents. Yan. And telling the parents, hey, partner with us, okay? um, we need your support. We cannot do this on our own. In fact, you parents are supposed to be the ones showing good example, being role models for your children. And by the time your child comes to our classroom, he or she, in fact, should already have learned at home respect, kindness, courtesy, goodness, hard work, industry, all those things. You parents are supposed to have done that already at home, not us. But we're here trying to help you. We're collaborating with you, but do not default on your work as the primary educators of your children, the first example and first role models. But this is what we're noticing. Medyo nagkakaroon ng problema about role modeling in many houses. One is because we have now 11 million Filipinos working abroad. Maraming absentee parents, no? And some of them are trying to cope with it by, doing FaceTime, Facebook Messenger, video messaging. Pero it's not enough. The parents not being in the house to personally show the good example, the role model that the young people need at this stage in their life, then it's just different. Now, we are not putting the blame on the parents, but what we are simply saying is it can be observed that when the parents are absent, then parang may kulang sa bata. Many times it's the kulang ng disiplina, ng supervision, ng somebody reminding them at home to stop playing computer games and do the homework and work hard to finish the assignment because there is an exam coming that they have to study. The parents are supposed to be the ones doing this at home. We are not at home. We cannot remind them to turn off Netflix and go to your module or to your work or to your assignment or to your books. So we need to step up. We need to help the parents, and they need, some of them do need help, and that's why we are talking now about we too as educators, as good teachers, are in a position to provide that role modeling that young people sorely need. Now, it's not just because the parents may be absent or they're too busy trying to um, make money in order to give a better life for their children, a more comfortable life. No? That's also the reality of life. The pressure today for parents to give their children a comfortable life is stronger than ever. The pressure is higher than ever. Para bang these days, it's not enough to just, have the minimum comfort. Hindi na, hindi na luxury ang internet. I mean, you notice that? Hindi na luxury ang internet. When I was younger, internet was only for business and for, the rich people. Pero ngayon, hindi, um, it's almost like a daily commodity. And then, hindi na pwedeng black and white TV, ang nasa bahay mo. Kailangan flat screen, kailangan LED, kailangan bigger than 36 inches, may cable na naka-connect na it's not just ordinary television, it has to be smart TV connected to the internet. I mean, these things which used to be like, you can say, optional luxurious items, para bang nowadays they are almost like a requirement for a young kid growing up to be happy. And then nandiyan pa yung pinag-usapan natin last Monday, gadgets, cell phones, di ba? Many young kids today, nako, hindi pwedeng ang bibigay mo lang yung talk and text lang. Ay, kailangan smartphone na pwede silang makinig ng kanilang Spotify music, and pwede silang manood ng kanilang K-dramas, pwede silang mag-surf ng internet. That's the kind of world that the young people are growing up in right now. And that is making many parents so pressured to work harder to provide comfort for the family. And that is affecting the task of role modeling. That is the kind of world the young people are growing up in. Now, here is what the studies show. Sabi ng studies, the role models of young Filipinos, the kids and the teenagers, here are the top role models according to them in the surveys and in research that has been done. Number one, on top of the list ng kanilang role models, Filipino celebrities and artists. Let me name some top celebrities that appear in the list of Filipino youth, kids and teenagers as among the top. Vice Ganda, with 15 million followers in Facebook. Ito, many of them, in fact, are aside from being actors and actresses, celebrities, yung idols na tinatawag nila. Of course, even internationally, you have people like BTS, kinalolokohan, kinababaliwan ng marami. And then nandyan yung mga K-pop artists. And then nandyan yung Sarah Geronimo, these artists who appear almost every day on television. And then yung athletes, kasi alam nila, abay, nag-basketball lang, milyonaryo na, no? They are being paid by the millions. So, according to surveys, according to research, Filipino teens, Filipino kids look up to athletes, look up to social media influencers who have millions of followers. And this is a danger because some kids are beginning to equate success with the number of followers and likes, and comments and how many react to whatever they post. You look at these top vloggers, top YouTubers in the country, and from the picture, you're going to say, ito ang mga tinitingala ng maraming mga kabataan. Parang, is this the kind of role model I want for my children? If it's your child looking up to those celebrities, are you going to be happy? But you look at the people they look up to, and then you realize they look up to them because of fame, fortune, money. Is that the measure of success, of being a role model? So we are in trouble. I mean, okay, if you are happy enough that this is the kind of yung kanilang mga iniidolo, then maybe there's no need for a topic like this. But if you think, wait, the young people deserve better, shouldn't they be looking up to some even more noble, with higher ideals kind of persons? Yan, kaya naglaba lang si Ibana Alawi, uy, 20 million views, yung ganong klase, uh, success. And then, of course, these influencers, aside from being influential, that's what we call them, they earn a lot of money. They make a lot of money. They make a lot of fortune. Research also says the Filipino teens and kids look up to young entrepreneurs and innovators. Yan, they look up to people like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, kasi billionaires, entrepreneurs, innovators, the president, the one who founded Mang Inasal, who started it when he was only, I think, late 20s or even early 30s, but a billionaire at such a young age. Yan, these are the people that the teenagers, the Filipino youth, according to research, look up to. And then public figures and advocates. These are the people that they look up to. No wonder years later, they will elect to Senate someone who is popular simply for singing, for action movies, for pinag-aaway yung mga tao sa live television or radio show. yung ganong klase, these are the people that the young kids, the teenagers in the Philippines look up to because they equate their influence with power, wealth, fame, fortune. Teachers, the young people deserve better. Let us not lose by default. Let us not, it's not just a matter of preventing these young people from looking up to celebrities. We have to present to them other more worthy role models. We are the role models for our children. They are watching and learning from us every day. And so, if a teacher is not a good role model, ay talagang maghahanap ang mga kabataan sa YouTube, sa TikTok, sa Facebook, sa Instagram, sa television, sa K-drama, sa teleseries, sa noontime shows. Yan. Doon sila maghahanap ng kanilang iidolohin. We have to present to them other more worthy role models as a way of preparing them for a better future. And it's not just preparing them for a better future, that will prepare the next generation of people for a better future. And we have to think about this. Our influence can never be erased. In fact, I want you to pause now. We pause and then reflect. Look at the best teachers we've ever had. those who really made an impact in our lives. And chances are we can say they made an impact in our life because they were role models, because they taught us what it means to work hard, to have a lifelong learning attitude, to be lifelong learners, um, because of the examples that we saw in our teachers or in our parents. And we can say, I am who I'm right now thanks to my parents, and then thanks to teachers, a few ones. Now, here's the reality, my dear teachers, my dear fellow teachers. Let's admit it, not all teachers we had were role models. We look back at our years in grade school, in high school. Some we preferred to forget. Some we don't remember because they were maybe mediocre. They really didn't shine. Um, like we really never remembered them for their hard work, for their special traits of kindness and caring, but some we do. In fact, maybe those who really left a mark in us were those who really cared for us. That's why that expression, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So, yung mga teachers na nagyayabang dahil valedictorian sila, summa cum laude, students don't care really much about that. But yes, they will never forget that teacher who went out of her way to console, the class when the class lost in the Sabayang Bigkasan, to encourage the class when the class was about to give up on a project, on a school, like something that they're putting together, a play, a production, a presentation, and they want to quit, but here comes a teacher who encourages them. Those are the ones we remember, and we remember them especially because of the good example that they showed us about the resilience, about hard work, about you remember last Monday when I shared with you my principles of teaching, my principles of a good teacher and an educator. This is one of those I shared with you. There is no other better way to teach character than through the power of our example. And this talk today is nothing else but an elaboration of the power of example, being role models. The best way to teach children good behavior is to make sure they see good behavior. Now, here's a problem. Young kids are not seeing good behavior on television, on national TV, Saksi, 24 Oras, TV Patrol, where every night when you watch the news, you will hear about criminality, adultery, theft, dishonesty, politicians being accused of this and that, war going on. In the US, a country that is so divided politically, there is always attack from one camp to another. I mean, it's like that's the daily content of Fox News, CNN, Republicans versus Democrats, all channels, all media. It's all about pitting the two together. I mean, making them really like as if you either have to be one or the other. It's like that. That is what the young people are subjected to. They don't see good behavior. And yet, that is what we want to teach them, good behavior. Well, Pritchard gives us the advice. The best way to teach children good behavior is to make sure they see good behavior. And that's why we want to create a kind and caring classroom. It's one of the seminars we always run. Before the session started, I flashed on the screen the July series that we have, 17, 18, and 19. It's a hybrid seminar, and it's all strategies. 6 hours of nothing but discussion of concrete strategies that we teachers can use inside the classroom in order to create a kind and caring classroom, in order to be able to manage the class effectively, in order to prevent bullying from happening, in order to teach for character strategies, dozens and dozens of them, more than 100 of them I flashed on screen. In fact, the concrete strategies that will be discussed in the 6-hour hybrid session. And right now, there are already around 150 registered participants. Majority of them are joining by Zoom from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, because everyone is looking for, sige nga, how can we teach young kids today good behavior, good character? And how can we create a kind and caring, healthy environment in our school, despite what the young people are subjected to? Okay, may impact. Pag ang mga kabataan may role model, ay ang lakas ng impact niyan sa kanilang behavior, kanilang values and behavior. Here are the impacts, or the what brings about having a role model. In the first place, then makikita nila what it means to have good behavior. When you know what we always say, if you want to teach kids kindness, model it, then they will learn it. That's why many times when I am consulted in a school about, Mr. Rentoy, patulong naman, may mga cases of bullying kami. Ang daming cases of bullying dito sa eskwelahan namin. One of the things I need to look into is, how are the teachers teaching? Do they shout, scream, and yell? Do they look down on the students? Do they use sarcasm most of the time that makes some students feel upset, bad, insulted, harmed? In other words, if there is a lot of bullying happening in a school, I will have to look into, how are the teachers in the first place modeling kindness, caring, welcoming attitude, which are the very opposite of bullying. So in other words, there may be bullying happening because the students are seeing it from the teachers in the first place. This teacher who calls on students, who calls names, I mean, who, parang binibigyan ng mga um, nickname ang mga bata. Hoy, laking bibig, lagi kang madaldal, I will call you malaki ang bibig. Ikaw, galaw-gaw. Ayan. And I hear that sometimes happening in some schools. The teacher calling students names. Nakala niya nakakatawa kasi tumatawa yung mga classmate. Galaw-gaw, halika nga rito, ayusin mo tong projector para madisiplina ka naman. Oy, uh, pandak, halika nga rito, gawin mo tong... when teachers in the first place are the ones doing that, the students are learning it. Then they start calling each other names. And worse, they start using the names you call the students with, that names that are insulting or derogatory or negative or insulting or embarrassing. They start using the same names that you used to call them. That's modeling behavior. That's the impact of role modeling. The students will start copying what they see in the teacher. Even expressions that we use, we have to be very careful. I mean, if we start using expressions that are actually profanity, bad words, or hurtful language, then that's a big impact on the students. When the students have role models, when they see the teachers being a good role model, ay ang lakas ng formation niyan in terms of strong values. It really forms the students very strongly. For example, if they see the teacher uh, working hard, he doesn't have to say, class, come on, makinig naman kayo, pinaghirapan ko tong lesson na to. The students know it. The students will see it. The students will be able to say it themselves. Grabe talagang pinaghirapan ni ma'am to Effort talaga Nag-prepare ng visual aids. Yung PowerPoint hindi lang puro words na para bang alam mo yung PowerPoint na kinat and paste mo lang yung text doon sa slide and that's it. That's what you showed. Walang effort. Pero hindi, si ma'am talagang pumili pa ng well-selected pictures, graphics. That's very powerful formation of strong values, values of hard work, respect for the students, consideration for the effort that they put in. That this is the power of role modeling. And yun ang mga maalala. Those are the things that the students will remember us by and will remember the school by, that when they 20 years later, when they receive an invitation to attend the alumni homecoming, gusto nilang pumunta kasi naalala nila itong tinuro ni Mrs. So and so that left a mark in them, that made them who they are right now. You and I had great teachers in our life, and you remember how the reason why they're great teachers in our from our eyes, from our point of view, is because they motivated us. They gave us an aspiration. I mean, we decided to work harder, even if we failed, even if the subject was difficult. Di ba? Ganyan minsan ang sinasabi natin. Ang hirap ng subject, pero dahil yung teacher helped us, encouraged us, motivated us, we did well. We passed, not just passed, but we did well in the subject. So, that many times is one of the most powerful results of having a strong role model, a good role model. That is very motivating for the students. That gives them an aspiration. And many times, this happens. They discover themselves, their identity. They discover their strengths, their weaknesses. They discover their talents and what they are capable of doing. That's why one of the things I enjoy most in my 30 years inside the classroom is not just teaching, but especially being moderator of a club. Because it is through clubs, extracurricular activities, leadership activities, student council work. It is through those things, and they many times happen outside the four walls of the classroom, that the students discover what they are good in, what their talents are, what they are capable of doing. And I encourage you to precisely be that kind of teacher who helps students not just pass a quiz, pass a test, pass a subject, but that they will discover their strengths, their weaknesses, their talents, that otherwise they would not have discovered if we did not one day tell the student, alam mo, siguro may kakayanan ka to speak, to do public speaking. Yan. Alam mo, siguro you explore, parang may talent ka for writing. These are the things that when teachers give comments like this, they start thinking about, yeah, maybe that's my purpose in life. Maybe that's what I am cut out to do. Maybe that's where my future lies, self-identity. And many times it's a role model that someone they look up to that makes them discover this. Well, when you are in a class and you go through tournaments, competitions, challenges, because I know many of you, you're not just a teacher. Sometimes you end up being the coach for the Sabayang Bigkasan. Sometimes you end up being the choreographer of the class for the Christmas presentation. Sometimes you even become the director of the skit or the play or the production that the class wants to put up. And all these things, they learn from you, the role model. Then they learn resilience. Then they learn how to overcome challenges. Then they learn to face whatever trials that come their way, whatever difficulties that may come their way. That is the role of a good role model. I mean, that's one of the achievements of a good role model. She is able to teach students resilience and go for challenges and succeed in overcoming whatever difficulties that may come their way. So, and then there's the last, empathy and social responsibility. You remember one of the things I mentioned in our last Monday session? How will you teach students if you know there in your classroom is the future president of the Philippines? And I assure you, in your classroom, when we open the new school year, you have there some people who are going to be someday important, rich. Let's face it, many of your students are someday going to be richer than we all can ever be, more successful, more powerful, more influential. How will you teach your students if you know the future president of the Philippines is there? Well, I know you're going to teach them empathy. Every opportunity you can have, you will talk about care for the poor, the needy, being of service to society, being responsible citizen. Every opportunity you can find, kahit ang subject mo ay math, ang science, every opportunity you can have, you will talk about being upright, having integrity, being honest. That is what it means to be a teacher of character, and that is what it means to be a role model. Every opportunity you can have, kahit walang kinalaman sa lesson for the day, but because everybody's talking about the headlines of yesterday, because everyone is talking about the war in Ukraine, because every opportunity you can have, you will grab it to be able to talk about values, virtues, empathy, social responsibility. And even better, if you don't even have to talk about it, they see it in your action. They see it in you. For example, merong um, anong tawag dito, yung parang donation drive for the victims of typhoon. Yan. Teachers, minsan we need to be the role model for this. We are the first ones to bring old clothes that can be donated, some canned goods that can be donated, um, to show good example to the students. Hey class, I am not exempting myself. We have to help the victims of typhoon. We have to help those who are in the evacuation centers. Kawawa naman sila. Wala nang bahay. Yung mga nasunugan. When there is a school drive to help, for example, suffering people like that, let's not just leave it to the students. Class, magdala kayo nitong ganito. We don't even have to announce that. We show by our example. We try to bring whatever we can to help. And that is more than enough announcement for them. You will see they will be more generous than they have ever been, because not because you talked about it, but because they saw it in you doing it. So, my dear fellow teachers, we have to be the role models for our students. And if we cannot do that, then let us make use of all possible role models we can ever present to our students. And there are three main types of role models we can present to them. Number one, fictional role models. So, kayong mga teachers ng reading, literature, um, sometimes merong mga clubs in schools, movie club, or literary club, watching videos or reading books. Those are all good ways of being able to present to students role models that are fictional. That's why literature is very powerful. Making students watch movies, documentaries, videos, comics. I mean, comic books can be a very powerful way of presenting to students good role models. And that's why when we think of what book to make the students, for example, read, what stories to discuss with them in our class, we incorporate in the unit plan or the preparation, what are the values I can discuss when we are taking up Charles Dickens novel, when we are taking up Moby Dick, when we are taking up Christmas Carol. We also think of who are the characters I can talk about that will highlight kindness, goodness, fortitude, strength of character, etc. Or making them watch movies or videos that have characters in the story that are exemplary in generosity, in heroism, in patriotism. And there are many stories like that. And there are many movies like that where you can discuss certain characters in order to bring out great values, great virtues. Let us not undermine or underestimate the power of videos. One of the main authors I will be using for the July 17, 18, 19 sessions on classroom strategies is Rafe Esquith, the writer, the author of Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire. You know, one of the strategies he has is to make the students watch many videos. And he will make um, movies, well, during that time, DVDs pa, no? Blu-rays. But now, you can just download it, or you can put it in a Google Drive and tell the students that these movies are available in the Google Drive for them to watch some of them. What Rafe Esquith would do is to look for these movies, Hollywood movies, some of them, that have very powerful lessons on character, on virtues. And then he would make the students watch some of them so that he can discuss inside the classroom the traits of those heroes in the stories that are heroes because they practice virtues. Here's another type of role model, historical. You who are teaching history, social studies, araling panlipunan, all of you are capable of presenting role models to the students. Role models who lived during World War II, World War I, during the medieval ages, during the Renaissance, in history, in current events. The power of learning about history. and learning from the great men and women of history, and then to bring out their values, their virtues, their heroism, their patriotism, their suffering, the magnanimity in suffering, their love for their country, their love for their families, the power of reading, watching documentary movies, biographies, study of history. That's a second type of role model that we can use. And we have to deliberately look for this because we cannot lose by default. As I said earlier, kung hindi natin gagawin ito, pues, the young people will continue idolizing, looking up to, making as their role models the celebrities, the athletes. And many of them do not exactly live an ideal life. I mean, ideal according to the standards that we have of values, virtues, Filipino values, goodness. Number 3, personal role models. That's why we have to get the parents, the family to partner with us. We have to have an orientation for the parents. You know, if you don't have something like this in your school, please suggest it, recommend it, propose it to your administrators. Let us have an assembly with the parents and tell the parents, parents, we need you to be the role models. We need you to supervise the movies that your sons, your daughters watch at home, or how they spend their free time. Because otherwise, natatalo tayo ng television, natatalo tayo ng Netflix, natatalo tayo ng Hollywood, natatalo tayo ng YouTube, ng TikTok. Nandun ang kanilang nagiging role model. So we have to have parent talks, for example, on matalinong pagpili ng mga pinapanood sa bahay. Ayan, that kind of presentation, you know, that kind of talk. You can look for a speaker who can talk to the parents on how to supervise your children's TV viewing habits. The power of teachers, of coaches, of mentors, of community leaders. These are all personal role models. So those 3, fictional, historical, and personal. Explore all the possible role models we can look for in those 3 areas and deliberately put them, incorporate them into our curriculum, into our unit plans, into our school activities. Let me give you now some practical tips, okay? Some practical tips on how we can present role models to our students and how we can make them understand the importance of role models. Here's the first one. Teachers, let's spend time researching and preparing. Sabi ko kanina, every opportunity we can get, let's incorporate good role models that we can talk about in our subject, whatever subject we're teaching. Math teachers, for example, hanapin natin yung mga mathematicians whose lives are exemplary, whose story of perseverance for them to be able to succeed in what they're doing. It's because of their virtues. It's because of their hard work. Then we look for those mathematicians and we try to incorporate them into our discussion. Positive role models from different fields and backgrounds, whatever subject we're handling. Pero kailangan ito, parang may bias tayo. May bias tayo for people that we can present as role models. And that's why we have to go beyond merely teaching them formulas, for example. This Pythagorean formula. Who is Pythagoras. I have to read about his life. Is there anything about his life that I can highlight as a good example for my students? That's what I mean by researching and preparing. Scientists. Okay, we're discussing this scientist. Um, I have to talk about Thomas Edison not giving up even after failing more than 1,000 times while he was trying to discover the light bulb. That's grit. That's perseverance. That's hard work. That is that's virtue. Gather information about their achievements, values, and the impact that they have made. Whatever subject we're teaching, we can find this. Number two, and there are 10 that I'm going to, I think, present to you. Create lesson plans and activities. Well, we've already mentioned it. We find a way of incorporating into our lesson plans, unit plans, discussion for the day, this role models. Make the students do research projects, presentations, or discussions where they can explore and share information about their chosen role models, that they themselves go out of their way in discovering these people. Again, whatever subject we are handling. Number three, invite guest speakers. And in fact, nowadays, most likely these role models that you can think of have a YouTube video available there. Make them watch as a way, I mean, as a, instead of inviting them to come to your classroom, make them watch a documentary about that person, about that great role model. Or if you have the capacity, then get them to actually come to your school, to your classroom. Professionals, among the parents. For example, among the parents of your students, abay, hindi mo alam, meron pala diyang sa mga estudyante mo, ang tatay niya is the president of this company that is making a big difference in the world and doing a lot of service to society. Invite that father, and I'm sure he will be very happy, excited to share with the class what he is doing, what his company is doing. Professionals from various fields, community leaders, or individuals who are making a positive impact in society, or your own friends from high school, from college, who are now highly successful. Invite them to come over, and then para hindi sayang, get the principal to allow not just your class but 2, 3 other classes to join, because this is a good learning experience for everyone. That's third practical tip. Here's number 4, and we somehow touched already on it. In literature, in history class, look for those lives, no? People, celebrities, literary or historical characters who are notable figures because of the values they live, the strong values that they can teach any generation, even if they lived during the time of Jose Rizal. But discussing them today is very relevant given the present situation. Even if they lived during the medieval times, the Renaissance times, we incorporate them into our curriculum. Science or social studies teachers discuss scientists or activists who have made significant contributions. Here's number 5, facilitate discussions. We somehow implied this. Make the students do discussions. Discuss the qualities, values, and behaviors exhibited by role models and how they can be applied in the lives of the students so that they make them personal. And then because of their discussion, they learn it not because you told them, but because they themselves reflected on it and came to realize, ay oo nga, napakagaling if I can someday also do something like that. I mean, that's in fact one of the most important contributions of role models, awakening in the students the desire to be able to do something equally great or even greater that they want to emulate. Yung paglaki ko, gusto ko yun. Gusto ko magawa rin yan. Then you open their horizon, you widen you make their heart bigger in their desire to be able to accomplish many great things in life and to make a difference. Number 6. Okay, earlier on we talked about celebrities and how many of them do not deserve to be role models. But kung hindi ito pag-uusapan sa classroom, and most likely parents will not also be discussing this at home, then we lose by default. We have to make the students critically evaluate the messages and values that they see in media. Discuss why this or that celebrity should not be a role model. The kind of negative influence they have on people. Ay, itong rock star na to, sikat, mayaman, famous, and really very rich. Pero look at what happened. Drugs destroyed him or her. Look at what happened. Fame made him arrogant and proud. That's what we need the young people to see. Not because somebody is rich and famous, automatically, that's also the kind of model, idol we should have. We have to encourage young people to distinguish between positive and negative role models, and for them to be able to determine what makes them positive and what makes them negative role models. And you don't even have to say it, class, don't be like that negative role model. Don't be like that uh, rock star who died of overdose, because you have taught them to be critical about it, to evaluate things critically. They themselves will make the conclusion. Number 7, and this is something we have said so often already throughout this presentation, as well as last Monday when we tackled the teaching, being catalysts, changing lives and molding minds, raising young people to be good. We have to be good role models for our students. Model the values and behaviors that you want to instill in your students. The virtues, the kindness, respect. Here's a very important point. The only way we can teach students to be respectful is if they see us also. Respect them. So one of the things I tell teachers in seminars is we have to slow down on sarcasm, okay? Because it doesn't help. I mean, sure, magtatawanan yung mga bata kasi maybe nakakatawa yung sarcasm na yon, pero yung student nagngingit-ngit na sa galit sa atin and he or she cannot express it, and then the person becomes full of resentment. Yan, they start resenting us. Model the values and behaviors that you want to instill in your students. That's very important. Number 8, we've got to get the parents to work with us. Let the parents know that you are concerned about the television habits of their children, the kind of shows that they watch at home, Get the parents to know that you are concerned that the students are beginning to idolize the wrong people. Collaborate with the parents and the community. Give them guidelines. Give them newsletters, for example, about the how they can check if the television shows or the video games that the students are playing are hurtful, harmful, or helpful, are formative or deformative. And by the way, there are websites like that, commonsensemedia.org, for example, or I'm not sure now if it's .com, Common Sense Media. If you look for it, you can Google it. It's the leading authority in the internet of they evaluate shows or video games, television and movies, television shows and movies. They evaluate them according to whether they are hurtful, harmful, or helpful for kids, and how parents should be choosing the right video games, for example, for their children. It's very sad if, many times, not many times, but sometimes it can happen. The students start playing video games that are very damaging, harmful, and it was given to them by their lola as Christmas gift because the parents don't know. The lola does not know na yung video game pa lang yun is too violent and too destructive, not to mention destructive. It's a big source of distraction for the kids. And then here's another one, check your school environment. Kahit anong turo mo sa mga bata, for example, about good use of time, pero nandyan lang pala sa kabilang kanto, billiard hall, where kids go right after dismissal and the parents may not be aware of it, and they can be wasting their time, a lot of time there. Or just nearby is the video arcade. And minsan may mga estudyante na nagka-cut ng class para maglaro ng video games the whole time. Parents thought or parents think nasa eskwelahan sila, pero nandun pala. Check your school environment. In the same way na kahit anong turo natin sa mga bata, don't take drugs, don't take drugs. Pero sa kabilang kanto lang pala, abay nandyan yung drug pusher, supplier. So, we have to collaborate with the parents and the community if we are to be very serious about presenting them with good role models. Number 9. I already mentioned this earlier. The power of videos, the power of movies. Now there are so many podcasts, for example, that feature positive role models. Look for those podcasts. Look for those very formative vlogs. I mean, if your only concept of vlogging is simply yung kay Small Laude at saka kay Alex Gonzaga, we're missing out on many things. There are many vloggers, professionals that are highly formative, that discuss very important topics, even about virtues, about values, about being patriotic, about let's explore them and then make use of them for the students to learn from. Let's look for those materials, examples that resonate with students and make the learning experience more engaging. And really, the young people spend a lot of time watching all these videos that are there available for them online. We might as well look for the best ones that can be really formative and that can really highlight positive role models. And number 10, finally, reflect and assess. assess students' understanding, attitudes, and behavior changes resulting from the lesson. So all the 9 previous practical tips, we look into, are they effective? Can they be made more effective? What can I do so that they are more um, really impactful in the lives of my students? And that's the power of role modeling. That's a power of the good example that we show now. It's what they will remember. They will forget what's the subject we teach, but they will never forget how we made them feel inside the classroom. Teachers can create a classroom environment that fosters an appreciation for positive role models and inspires students to embrace strong values in their own lives. Well, um, hopefully, we too are the favorite teachers of some students that have passed through our classrooms, because not because we just taught them a subject, but especially because we cared for them. We taught them especially values, virtues, what it means to be a good person. And we didn't teach it by lecturing on it. We taught it from the powerful example of our life. A mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. That's Oprah Winfrey. And this is one of the things that we have to give the young people today, a lot of hope. I think there'll be time. Last Monday, I presented to you the 4 factors why researchers discovered why 1/3 of the teenage girls in the US contemplated suicide or actually attempted suicide. I gave you the 4 reasons, but unfortunately, we didn't have time. I didn't give you the 4 possible solutions. And number one solution is this: we have to present hope to the students. Talk about hope many times. Talk to them about that there is a lot of hope for them in the future, that in spite of the kind of environment that they're living in right now, they can make things better and things will get better. We have to make them see that uh, that's how things go. That one point in the time of history of mankind, we were at war, World War I, and then it was repeated, World War II. And yet, in spite of those 2 world wars, we've been able to recover, get back on our feet, and rebuild. um, 2 weeks ago, I was in Japan, and it's just so amazing to see. This is the country that was ravaged by the war, and yet look at it now. It's way above, I mean, way ahead of its time. It's spectacular. It's so great a nation. So, however things are right now in the country and in the world, things can get better. Things will get better. We have to keep on talking to the young people about things becoming better in the future, because they need it. That's number one solution to the crisis of suicide. And all great people acknowledge one teacher or another. Nelson Mandela acknowledged, credited his primary school teacher, Miss Dingane. It's an African name, so it's so difficult, for being a significant influence on his life. And then you wonder, wow, primary school? Ibig sabihin yung kinder and ano pa? Yes, even you kinder teachers are in a position to leave a mark, a long-lasting mark on our students. Malala Yousafzai, Nobel Peace Prize winner. And she acknowledged that her father, who was her teacher, because you remember what she fought for, no, to allow girls to be educated. And so in her case, she had to count on her father to teach her in the absence of education for girls. And the father was like served as her role model, her teacher and role model. Steve Jobs, the inventor, founder of Apple, and inventor of iPhone that revolutionized cell phones and the way we communicate. Well, he often spoke about the influence of his high school electronics teacher, Mr. McCollum. Teachers are very powerful, very influential, good teachers, that is. I have to qualify because like what we said earlier, totoo no? We've also had some mediocre ones, so-so ones, but we're lucky to have great ones in our life. Albert Einstein credited his high school math teacher, Herman Minkowski, for planting in him that desire for discoveries. Well, my dear fellow teachers, the future president of the Philippines hopefully will someday say, you, the teacher now, and that president, the future president of the Republic of the Philippines, may be inside your classroom. That girl, that boy, who may even be a source of difficulty for you because pasaway, because mahirap pagsabihan, or that person just might be someday the president of the Republic of the Philippines, and in one of the how do you call that, yung president's report, no, babanggitin niya, magpapasalamat sa'yo dahil sa mga tulong na binigay mo sa kanya nung siya ay estudyante pa. It's worthwhile being the role model, working to be the role model for our students. The influence of a good teacher, our influence, can never be erased. It will forever be there. The role of teachers as role models for their students is of utmost importance. We, teachers, have a unique position of influence and impact on the lives of our students beyond the academic realm. But this will only happen if we teach for character. That we are not the kind of teacher who simply is interested in covering the curriculum, in finishing the textbook, in finishing the syllabus, in reaching the last chapter of in being able to submit grades and be able to tell the principal, nagawa ko yung nakalista doon sa list of things to be accomplished. Well, we go beyond that and actually leave a mark in the lives of our students. These and more are the possibilities that we have when we are good role models for our students. We will help the students develop socially and emotionally. We will be able to plant certain values, certain morals, integrity, uprightness. We will be able to show them good behavior, and they will behave for the rest of their life because of the example we gave them, because of the role model that we become for them. We give them academic motivation. We even enlighten them about the possible careers they can have in the future. I mean, of the 55 or so of us here in this room, I think many of us decided to become teachers thanks to the good example of one teacher or another. The teacher was our became the career aspiration of our life. They will have resilience and perseverance. They will have cultural and social awareness, long-lasting impact.